Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2022, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I'm the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2022 elections. We ask voters to arm themselves with the information necessary to make educated choices and to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find out more information about the upcoming election. And now I'd like to introduce Ben Bakeberg, who is running for Minnesota House District 54A. Ben, thank you for joining us today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Thanks to the Chamber for inviting me in to come in and speak. Thank you for watching online, for those of you that are watching this recording. My name is Ben Bakeberg, as Tim said. I grew up in Cokato, Minnesota, met my wife, Lindy, at Northwestern College in Roseville, and we've been blessed with three wonderful kids. I'm obviously a little biased there, but honestly, I'm relatively new to politics. I've never run for office, but I've been in education my entire career, and I currently serve as a middle school principal. And this perspective has given me a front row seat to how the divisive political climate is hurting our kids, hurting our families, and hurting our communities and schools. And I was raised, like I said, in Cokato, and I was raised in a way that if you were going to complain about something, you better raise your hand and do something about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm raising my hand, and I'm running to be a common sense voice for our kids, for our families, for our communities, and our schools. And that's really where our motto of strong families, strong communities, and strong schools has come out of. So it's a little bit about me.
Great. Thank you, Ben. If you could write, sign, and pass 3 laws today, what would they be and why?
It's a great question, and it's exciting to think about having the opportunity to pass laws that can benefit our community. So the first thing I would start with is I feel strongly we need to eliminate the Social Security tax. So we are one of 12 states, I believe, in the country that still have this tax on our seniors, and this would provide much, much needed relief to our seniors. So that would be the first thing I would do. The next thing, if you're in education circles, and I'm in education, you'll hear a lot about the cross subsidy for special education. And I believe strongly that we need to fully fund that cross subsidy. So that would be the second thing that I would do. And just a little background on that. The federal government has requirements that we have to, as public schools, provide special education services. And we have the opportunity, and I am passionate about providing high quality educational services to every single kid who walks through our door. That includes our special education students. But the reality of it is these mandates are unfunded from the federal level, so local districts have to pick up the cost. And in the district that I serve in, that's a $1.7 million unfunded mandate from the federal government that comes out of our general fund. So we have to reduce other programs to make sure that we're fulfilling that unfunded mandate. So fulfilling the cross subsidy for special education is a major priority. And the other thing that you may not have heard a lot about, but it's really important to me, is truancy reform. And you may think, well, Ben, that's not really a big deal. But if you talk to anyone at the county level or at the school district level, and I've worked in multiple districts across the state of Minnesota, the truancy program does not meet the needs of our most at-risk students and families. So we need to provide some support, but also provide accountability so that those students are in school learning, not on the streets, creating issues on the streets. So three priorities for me would be to eliminate the Social Security tax, fully fund special ed and eliminate the cross subsidy, and then truancy reform.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Coming out of the pandemic, businesses are being affected by issues including workforce shortages. What policies would you support in the next legislative session to help alleviate this issue?
Yeah, just today I was flipping through the newspaper, and it was just help wanted ad after help wanted ad after help wanted ad. And as I talk with business owners, really what they're looking for are good people that are willing to work and actually show up to work. We talk a lot about reducing red tape and eliminating business tax, which is really, really important. We need to do that. But if we don't have people working, it perpetuates that workforce issue. As an educator, I'm passionate about helping kids find their gifts and talents. And I think we need to do an even better job of creating pathways and relationships with the business communities so that kids can figure out how they're wired. They can create relationships with the business community and then potentially be hired right after high school. I was just at a manufacturing event the other day and was talking with a manufacturer, and he talked about how there's such a need for good workers that have a skill and that are willing to learn. And he talked about kids being able to, or employees being able to run a CNC mill. Well, we have one of those in our school district. We could partner with those organizations, that manufacturing company. They could come in and train our teachers so that our teachers that have a relationship on what they're looking for, and then be able to equip those kids. And the thing that really jumped out to me is this man said that when a kid graduates from high school, if he's the right fit, that student could make up to $100,000 a year right out of high school. So I'm passionate about creating some pipelines to different industries, working with our schools to do that. And it's a win-win for our schools. It's a win-win for our kids, our families, our communities, and our businesses will not only have strong relationships, but they'll have that pipeline established.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Excuse me. According to the Minnesota Office of Budget and Management, the general fund budgetary balance for fiscal year 2022-2023 is projected to be over $7 billion. In fiscal year 2024-2025 is projected to be over $12 billion. What policies would you propose or support in the next legislative session considering these budget surplus projections?
That's a great question, and we're hearing a lot about the current surplus and the potential surplus. So the two things that I would focus on is historic tax reform. That's the first thing. The state of Minnesota, we are one of the highest taxed states in the nation. I hear that over and over again from the business community, and we are all struggling with the soaring cost of just about everything. And given the record surplus, to me, it's only common sense to take advantage of the opportunity to sit down and figure out meaningful historic tax reform that will be permanent and ongoing for our families and our communities. The second thing that I would be a proponent of is making significant investments in our roads, bridges, and infrastructure. A prime example of that is the 169-282 project in Jordan. That project is not only a benefit to the community of Jordan, but it's also a significant benefit to Scott County and the state of Minnesota. So those are the two areas that I would focus on: historic tax reform and then investments in our roads and bridges and infrastructure.
Great, thank you. According to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, there were roughly 395 violent crimes for every 100,000 residents in 2021 in the 7-county metro area, which is a 24% increase over 2020 levels. What are the best solutions to lower the crime rate, not only in the 7-county metro, but throughout Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are staggering on the increase of crime recently. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel safe when we go out and about in the community. And the simple fact is that violent crime is on the rise, and we have to aggressively address this issue. And I believe using a multi-pronged approach is the best way to do it. And the first thing we need to do is support our law enforcement. And simply put, we need to support our law enforcement by holding violent and repeat criminals accountable. And then we also need to hold accountable the judges and prosecutors that are are not following the sentencing guidelines. At the Scott County Fair this summer, I was talking with a police officer, and he told me a story about how he arrested an individual 2 nights in a row. He arrested the person for a crime. They were out the next day, and he arrested the person the same night. How defeating that would be doing your job. And we need to hold violent and repeat criminals accountable for what they do. The second thing we need to do is we need to fund our law enforcement communities so they have the resources that they need so that they can go out and keep us safe and then go home to their families each and every night. They should not have to worry about that. And the last thing that I would push for is that we need to incentivize, and I talked about that pipeline from a workforce issue. We need to incentivize law enforcement as a profession, and we need to hold it in esteem. And when people attack law enforcement or other public servant professions, like our firefighters, like our educators, we need to address that and just say that that's unacceptable. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, and I will always stand behind our law enforcement because the only way we address the violent crime spree is to stand behind them and support them each and every day.
Great. Thank you, Ben. What would your plan be to help with healthcare costs for businesses and families?
Yeah, that's we all want healthcare, lower healthcare costs, and it's a major factor not only for our business communities but our families. As I'm out knocking on doors, one of the things that I often hear is that people are working just to cover the cost of their health insurance, and their paycheck is sometimes just dollars after a 2-week pay period because of the cost of health insurance. It's honestly a complicated issue, and if I sat here and said I had all the answers, I'd be lying. But that's where I go back to my core values of listening to constituents, listening to people that know the situation, know the industry better than I do, and learning. And what I've consistently heard when I've listened to people is that they want greater choice and greater transparency with their providers. And if we at the Capitol listen more than we speak, then I think we'll be in good shape and we'll be able to serve our communities well. But if we don't listen, then our communities will be impacted and our families will be impacted.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Do you support passage of sports betting in Minnesota? And if so, what would be the best way to implement?
Yeah, that's not an easy issue. On one hand, you have the concern over people who may struggle with gambling and the concern about kids and minors being involved with sports betting. Then on the other hand, you have I feel we all should have the individual freedom to live our lives how we choose. And the commitment that I can give is that I'm going to weigh both of those perspectives as we craft any legislation in relation to sports betting that may become law.
Great. Thank you. Now I'd like to give you the opportunity to give your closing statement and message to the voters.
I'd like to say thank you to Tim, thank you to the Chamber for inviting me to come in and hosting this forum. The other candidates for taking the time to do this. I'd like to wish them well in the campaign. I'd like to thank you, the voters, for taking the time to listen. Hopefully we didn't put you to sleep. But in college, just simply put about myself, in college, I decided to go into education because I wanted to influence kids, and I went into coaching because I wanted to influence kids. And as I worked through my career, I was challenged by my mentors to go into different leadership avenues, and I went into the principalship. And I have been blessed in that role as a building principal for my whole career. But I think it's important that you understand that I get up every morning, and my perspective is, and my goal is that I want to speak life into the people that I have an opportunity to work with, the kids, the families, the staff that I work with, and influence them in a positive direction. And that's really the same perspective that I would take if I had the opportunity to serve you, the constituents of 54B. My name is Ben Bakeberg, running for the House of Representatives, and I would appreciate your vote.
Great. Thank you, Ben. As a reminder, the views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Chamber is sponsoring these events as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. Thank you again. We appreciate your time and service to our community by running for office. You are performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for this edition of Meet the Candidates 2022. Please join us September 29th at River Valley Church for our candidate forum. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org for more information. Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, and thank you.